We haven't seen a bulldog on the hood of a medium-duty truck since Mack retired the midliner conventional nearly 17 years ago. Mack has been absent from the medium-duty market for a long time, but it's back with a bullet now with its new MD series, the MD7, the MD6, and the MD6 low profile. I'm equipment editor Jim Park. I'm at the Vision Truck Group's dealership in Stony Creek, Ontario with a brand new Mack MD7. I happened to be driving past the dealership one day this summer and I spotted the truck on the dealer lot. It was set to appear at Canada's national truck show, Truck World, which was ultimately cancelled due to the pandemic. I made a few calls, procured all the official blessings, and set up this world premiere test drive of the new MD series. The MD series is a pair of Class 6 and Class 7 straight trucks aimed at private fleets and the pickup and delivery crowd. The lighter Class 6 version of the truck, the MD6, is also offered in a low-profile configuration with a lower chassis height. This will suit the roll-on towing crowd and the last-mile delivery markets. The truck was introduced in January of this year at Mack's new Roanoke Valley facility in Virginia. So let's dig in. We'll start with some of the chassis features and options. So this Mack MD is a brand new chassis for the company. It's obviously, the cab is very Anthem-ish, based on the Anthem. We'll get inside in a few minutes, we'll see what it's like. Let's do a little bit of a walk around on the outside here and see what we're actually looking at. Obviously it's a medium duty chassis. In this particular case, offered in two models, Class 6 and Class 7. So that gives the company a bit of flexibility into how much payload they can carry, as well as the suspension ratings and what have you based on the weight of the vehicle. We've got a Cummins B6.7 under the hood. That's a 220 to 300 horsepower range, 600, 800 pound-feet of torque. So it's a pretty good engine for a chassis this size. And obviously it's probably going to deliver some pretty healthy fuel economy as well. The bumper to back of cab measurement on this truck is 103 inches. That's from the bumper obviously to the very back of the cab. Pretty short, nice and maneuverable. And we'll notice too that the back of the cab is clean and flat. There's nothing protruding, all the exhaust systems mounted down below, so you can get the body right up against the back of the cab. The cab to axle measurement on this truck, obviously from the back of the cab to the center of the rear axle, comes in a variety from 87 inches up to 207 inches. That gives you a lot of flexibility to put a box or a deck or some sort of a tool back there that can be anywhere from 10 to 26 feet. So tons of flexibility. That's all just an engineering thing. You order the size you need or you want, and Mack builds it for you. Your suspension options for this truck are steel spring, like we have here on the test truck, or air ride. Customer choice, you pick. Obviously going up to the air ride is going to add a little bit of cost, but smoother ride, happier drivers, blah, blah, blah. We all understand that. Tire sizes, two options here. The 11R 22.5, which we have on here. This is the Class 7 model, of course, the higher weights. And you can also get the 19.5-inch tires on the Class 6 model. Slightly lighter truck, slightly smaller, closer to the ground, obviously, easier to get in and out of. But those are customer specking options. But this truck obviously is designed and engineered with a lot of flexibility, so it's going to appeal to a whole broad customer base. The cargo box was a 26-foot insulated body made in Germany by Schmidt's Cargo Bull. It features a 3-way rear door and a curbside door. There's full logistics tracks on the sidewalls and 2 vertical partitions that store in the ceiling when they're not in use. The walls are made of something called ferroplast, which are said to be thinner and lighter than other materials and more energy efficient. These boxes are distributed in Canada by Gencor of Blenheim, Ontario, but they aren't currently available in the US. Let's have a look at what's under the hood of this Mack MD. Here we've got a Cummins B6.7 inline 6-cylinder diesel mated to an Allison RD 2500 automatic transmission. So we'll just go through the driver inspection list here and see what drivers have to inspect and how difficult that chore is going to be. Obviously we've got a fairly short hood, so it's a little bit tight under here. Fairly small sized engine block, but obviously over here on the left hand side we've got, your oil level check. So that's pretty easy to do. Full of oil, of course, it's brand new. but that's not a problem for most drivers to get into there. Now the automatic transmission dipstick might be a little bit harder to get to. You got to reach all the way across the top and get up there, and of course it's a really long stick. Fluid level's good, so that's a relatively easy thing to check, but you've got to stretch to do it. And for a vertically challenged driver, that might be a bit of a problem. It's not a bad environment to work in for the pre-trip inspection. Let's have a look around the other side and see what we've got over there. So around here on the right hand side, we've got alternator, air conditioning, compressor, belts and hoses, those sorts of things to check. Coolant level, obviously, with the surge tank up on top. It's easy to see when that's full. Easy to check the condition of your belts and the tightness of your alternator. That's all a relatively easy thing to look at. Windshield washer bottle here. That's a fairly easy fill. You'll have to lift the jug a little bit to get up there, but it's not too high and out of the way. You don't have to climb too high to get at it. It's obviously protected from the turbocharger. That tends to get pretty hot, and if this thing was exposed, it would likely melt. So a heat shield there to make sure that doesn't happen. And like I said, everything else under here is fairly accessible and relatively easy to see for what a driver would face on a typical trip inspection.
I think where the MD really shines is the cab. Everything you see here is standard equipment, much of which would be optional on other brands, and there's nothing automotive about it. Drivers are going to love the MD cab.
So up here in the cab of the new medium-duty Mack, a bit of an interesting story to tell about the cab. It's all built from existing parts. Obviously, they didn't want to get into an entire redesign. So what we've got here, the cab itself is actually a cab from a Mack Granite. That's a standard cab. Every other Granite on the planet has exactly the same cab. So it's got the all the factory insulation, tried and true door hinges, all that sort of stuff. So these things have been in production for a long time. So nothing new and scary with that. The floor and the floor mats are from an Anthem. Of course, that's Mack's newest aerodynamic Class 8 truck. So they borrowed a little bit from that. And you can see from the dashboard, anybody who's familiar with the Anthem product, and they would agree that this is, an Anthem look-alike for sure, but there's a couple of subtle differences to it. The basic dash, driver layout, and driver display here in the center is more or less the same with just some different details. We have these, cool-looking controllers here on the side of the steering wheel. On the highway trucks, this one is for the engine brake. On this model, which doesn't have an engine brake, this is where your windshield wiper controls are. And over here on the left-hand side, we've got the turn signals, high beams, that sort of thing. But it's pretty much the same configuration as we see on the Anthem that was released year before last. Now, the dashboard itself looks pretty Anthem-y or Granite-y, depending how you look at it, but it's actually set back in a little bit further forward. On the Granite, the dashboard pulls out. This little tuckaway piece here comes out 30 degrees. On this truck, it's only 15 degrees. And the reason for that is they want to put this bench seat over here on the passenger side so that you can accommodate seating for 3 people. If that dashboard had swung out the extra 15 degrees to 30 degrees, they would not have been able to put that 2-person seat over there, and you would have been limited to a 2-seat truck. In medium duty, the truck pretty much has to be available with a 3-seat option. That's one of the sort of mandatory things of the business. So Mack's accomplished that really, really well. It's I said before while we were driving how extraordinarily quiet it is in here, and really I don't just say that to make everybody feel good. This is really an incredibly quiet truck. So Mack's done a really great job with the insulation and trim packages. It's nicely put together. Virtually no squeaks and rattles. So from a driving environment perspective, a really comfortable place to be. There's a couple of extra little features here that are worth talking about. We've got these USB plugs on the dashboard, 2 right here. I got a USB access in the radio if you want to put a jump stick with some music on it. That's got a CD player, Bluetooth, all that sort of stuff. And down on the right-hand side of the dashboard there, the HVAC system, heating air conditioning system, is the same as you find in a Granite. So again, a tried and true, proven system. Nothing new there, just technology that works. And we were driving around today. It's fairly warm here today, about 25 degrees Celsius, say, low 80s Fahrenheit. And we had the air conditioning on the second position, and it was chilly in here. So, the air vents, the air circulation around the cab is really, really good. Now, one of the things I had a bit of an issue with, and it's just a familiarity thing, I think, is this transmission interface. It's an Allison RDS 2500 or 2500 RDS. You look down the side of it here, we've got reverse, neutral, drive, 3, 2, 1, which is great. Once you're driving, you put it in D and away you go. But my inclination is when I stop the truck and go to park it and get out, I just release the gear shift and shove it forward, which puts it into reverse. So they might want to put a park pawl or some way of reminding drivers that by shoving the stick forward, which is sort of an easy habit to get into, you're actually moving the transmission into reverse. It won't just take off if you've got the brakes on, but nonetheless, it's something to be cognizant about. You got your multi-position steering wheel here, infinitely adjustable for the driver, lots of flexibility there. So I mean, belly room or not, if you had that little flat spot in the steering wheel, is it going to help you here? Probably not, but it looks cool too. You may have noticed driving around today or in my talk about the cabin, the driver cabin area, there's no coffee cup holder in here. Don't worry, it's here. It just isn't in this truck. This is a prototype model. They put it together for the Truck World show in Toronto. The coffee cup holder is en route as we speak. It's being shipped up from the manufacturer, and it's actually going to live right down here between the two seats. There's going to be a couple of big gulp cups holders here, some trays and various other little accoutrements for the driver. But when I first got into it this morning, I looked around because I had my Yeti coffee cup in my hand, and I thought, my God, they forgot to put a coffee cup holder in this thing. They didn't, in fact. It's an add-on, and it's going to sit down here between the seats, but this truck doesn't have it yet.
So Mack is certainly returning to the medium-duty market with a bang. The MD series will provide experienced truck buyers with everything they'd need in a truck without overthinking the spec. For buyers who see a truck simply as a means of getting product to market, it might take a bit of a nudge before they'll see the value in an MD. But for drivers, well, I think the MD is going to be a recruiting machine. Check out the next video in this series where we saddle up and take the MD out for a ride. At the Vision Truck Group's dealership in Stony Creek, Ontario, I'm equipment editor Jim Park.